Okay, y'all, it's time to get serious. I have got my notebook. I have got notes from the honeymoon beginning, day 3 and 4 of Married at First Sight here in the USA. Well, I've got these couples broken down into different sections. It does jump all over the place because they don't do it like they should. Listen to me, y'all. When you shoot this series, if you could stick with one couple for like maybe, say, the first half, the second couple, and then, the third couple, so on and so forth. But don't just skip all over well, you know what I'm saying. All over the place, then it makes it harder on me to take notes. So, let's start with Karen and Miles. They discuss living and different types of situations, and she's like, she's never lived with a man, and she's wanting to know if he's ever lived with a woman, and Karen wants him to know that sometimes she wants alone time. And Miles picked out Karen's sunglasses. Karen says it feels weird, but Miles is trying to make it less weird. Karen and Miles go roast marshmallows, says maybe you will graduate from my stranger to my acquaintance soon. Miles explains why he wants to be a husband and father and the man that he wants to be for her. Karen talks about her last relationship, how communication, the lack of, and that he had a kid outside their relationship was with someone else, and that's what ended that while they were together. Of course, not her and Miles, but her and her ex relationship. Miles thinks it's cool that he has to prove himself to her, and he is like that man that he will be. And Miles has been in 10 relationships, and Karen has been in 2 relationships. So Miles has been in 10 previous relationships, while Karen has been in 2. And Miles is the younger of the 2 in this relationship. Karen says that she is afraid he is a relationship hopper, and she's just number 11. Now, Olivia and Brett. Now, you all know this is one of my favorite couples. So, Olivia and Brett will start out by pillow talking about sleep. Olivia likes Brett. She feels the attraction. And Brett, first time married, and Olivia, last relationship lasted 3.5 years ago, strikes Brett as odd that she waited so long and then just jumped headfirst into marriage. He had a date a few days before he got matched at first sight to get married. And it was a second date. There was potential there, but he got matched, so there's no need to worry about it, he tells Olivia. Olivia is doing suntan lotion on Brett, and Brett calls Olivia kind, compassionate, caring, enjoying getting to know her. They discuss childhoods and vacation spots. I love this couple, but I see some red flags, so we're just going to have to wait and see. Armani and Woody talk about their sexual experience. Armani isn't experienced. And then they flash over to, because Amelia and Bennett, they all kind of hang out together. Armani and Woody hangs out with Bennett and Amelia. Amelia says that they complement each other so well. And Armani and Woody go swimming with Woody thinks that Armani says he jumps in the water. Okay, they all go jumping in the water, so they're swimming. Then he loses his ring. Woody loses his ring. Armani shows slight disappointment, but he doesn't, Armani. She doesn't go off on him and go be like, hey, you lost your ring, so this relationship is over. Top props for Armani on that. She just, it's not a major detail. They share a shower together. Now, we don't get to see how much of this intimacy got into that, but then they had their first dinner date as a married couple. They talk about a deep connection. She's wanting to feel confident in them before they have boom boom. Armani was betrayed by her last boyfriend, and he was married. She didn't know this. He was married, okay? Woody says we had to have this past mess ups in order to get here. And I love that about Woody. He's like, you know what? That was then, this is now. And that's the way a man needs to be. Armani was, okay, we got that one. Woody says, okay, Armani doesn't want Woody to pay for another man's mistake. She feels good, but she's scared. They cuddle a lot, talk about the first date, and then they shower together again. Woody was hopeful about consummation of marriage, and then we go over to Christina and Henry. These two, I just don't see a snowball's chance in Hades. I'm being honest. Christina and Henry, they have a quiet breakfast, and Christina asks, do you like hanging out with me? Henry says, well, yeah, we get along. We're just not Armani and Woody. Chris says, don't compare us. They talk about drinking tequila last night, and Chris wants to get out in the sun and get that vitamin D to feel better. Henry was blaming her for ruining their paddle boating, so he paddles and lets her just ride along. Chris asks him if he wants to go swimming. Henry says he can't even float, and Chris says you got to learn, and Henry tumbles awkwardly from even unloading from the paddle boat that they went out in. Henry is like a wet towel to Christina, and Christina is just like she's wanting to go on these adventures and wanting to do things while they're in Mexico, and who can blame her? So that's why I'm having a problem seeing these two really be compatible. Amelia and Bennett. These two are another one of my favorites because they're both wild, wacky hippies. Anyway, Bennett ordered breakfast, and Amelia calls Bennett thoughtful and wonderful. She just feels lucky. Bennett feels really good and she makes him smile a lot. And then he totally messes up on what YOLO is. He's like, it's like YOLO. And Amelia kind of smirks and goes, what? And he goes, you only live once. And or only love once is what Bennett thought it was. And Amelia corrects him and goes, no, it's not you only love once. It's you only live once. But it would be cool to only love once, she said. So it's kind of neat that even though she corrected him, she found joy in what he said. Dinner party. They all have a great time together. They chat. Henry, though, feels that Brett is there for all the wrong reasons and that Olivia is a great girl. Here's my side note from that. I think Henry has feelings for Olivia. And he said that it will be interesting to watch how they do in the experiment. Karen calls Bennett and Amelia adorable. Christina says that she feels like their friendship with her and Karen is just alike. They're both slow, their relationships, and she thinks her and Henry will be okay. Christina, I hate to break it to you, but I just don't see a snowball's chance in Hades. Sexual chemistry is the next topic. Bennett thinks it's admirable that Olivia and Bennett have I got those names wrong. Olivia and Brett wants to keep it to themselves. They don't feel the need to discuss. Woody calls Henry and Christina a weird dynamic. Christina is jealous of the other couples. Henry doesn't know if he will even be aggressive in the relationship. Now, let's take a time out there for a moment. A woman wants to feel wanted, needed, and, Henry's just not providing that. And that's a red flag. Meanwhile, Olivia thinks talking about childhood will help them with how they move forward as a family. Brett knows Olivia has layers, and Olivia feels that he is cute and quirky. Oh, back to Amelia and Bennett. They feel like it has promises. Bennett feels like it has promises of a budding relationship, which will grow into a relationship. They talk about growing up. Bennett's mom had cancer, and that made him think of mortality. Amelia had a happy childhood, and Amelia feels comfy with Bennett. Armani and Woody. They talk about breakfast, not there yet, but they have a lifetime together, meaning they didn't consummate when we thought they would. Henry and Chris go together on an activity. More on that in a little bit. Olivia and Brett talk about cheating in a relationship. Brett asks if Olivia has ever cheated. She said no. Brett said after a broken engagement, he had become a serial dater. Amelia and Bennett go for an 8 a.m. swim. Karen and Miles go film their first quote-unquote fight. which is just a little disagreement between the two, but it was adorable. They did it while they were first waking up, so you really had to watch that moment. Olivia asked about brides. You ever see any of them that on social media dating, since you are a serial dater to Brett? And Brett's like, no. And then ask Olivia, well, how about the grooms? You ever see any of them? And she's like, no, not before now. Then we slide into that broken engagement, okay, which was a ways back, and she apologizes for what happened, and she says, did you all try to work through it? What happened? And, he says, well, yeah, but then it just happened again. She just cheated again after she cheated the first time. Olivia never was engaged, but she really thought it would be a one-time thing kind of thing. I'm trying to read my own handwriting, but she really thought it would, and it didn't happen. So friends and family, she didn't want to have just friends and family. So Olivia says it does get lonely when you get done from work and come home, but now she was ready to come home to like a husband and family type of situation, which was a good situation and note there. The pastor says it's the first time there's been two friends like Woody and Miles. They're both best friends, but they set them up to be in the situation where they were married at sight, so they would be able to go to each other and lean on each other if need be. Armani and Woody and Miles and Karen go on this joint adventure together, which is a speedboat out in the water. Miles feels like having Woody to chat with is a relaxing thing, and it feels more comfortable in a situation for they all need to get to let their hair down and get to know each other. Woody chose them all to go on the speedboat, and Armani says jet boating is so much fun. 2 times she had to hold on to Woody, which was adorable. Karen feels good about Miles, but that fear of him not being her Prince Charming is proceeding with caution. Karen wants to know why amount of relationships. And Miles wants to know what he wants and what he doesn't want. That's why he had the relationships. So that set him on a path to find what he wanted in his forever after relationship. So his serial dating kind of makes sense. I'm glad he had a response for that. Karen feels like she has good qualities, but stresses communications with Miles, and Miles is hoping that once she sees his everyday life beyond paradise of the honeymoon, that they'll be ready for life together. Back to Henry and Christiana, who goes to the park. Now, Christiana's has found that he is afraid of almost everything. They jump on a trampoline. After that, they go and enter this cave, and Chris wants to float in the mud pond. Literally, there's this mud pond they have to float in, okay? Chris wants to make life's mission for Henry to have more fun. So they float in this river of mud, and Henry says today was fun, hope to do more down the road, but he hopes that they can come to a compromise and do not so many dangerous things. You see why I don't have much hope for this couple? Okay, back to Amelia and Bennett. They arrive at a giant chess set. Bennett feels great to have a partner that he can laugh and have fun with. Feels like they make each other as a person feel more important. And he says when his last relationship ended, it was because he made the other person feel more important than he was. And Amelia's like, well, then I have a great man in my life, or something like that. I didn't write down what she said exactly. I apologize. Bennett asked about Amelia's past relationship, and she feels like they don't hate each other. They were just going in different places. Amelia focuses on the chess game and avoids answering Bennett's rest of his question. And then that's when Bennett just says, okay, I'm not even going to take it. Let's just call it a game, and let's just not worry. Or I put down it's a worry moment for this couple. Olivia and Brett, they go to an obstacle course. They have a good time. And then the kids' conversation comes up. Brett talks about marriage and kids, and Olivia wants marriage and then maybe kids down the road. Not in a rush, but would consider it. Brett says unless they both were on board, like 100%, he wouldn't do it, and he wouldn't be the only parent. This is a possible problem moment for them. Karen's biggest concern is not only Miles' age, but she knows he's trying really hard to be the man that she needs and wants in her life. Woody wants to know more about his wife before intimacy, and Woody feels like he can open himself up to being vulnerable to Armani. We're getting close, kids. And as usual, I'll give you my who's going to make it and who's not. And next time on Married at First Sight, it will be the final few days of the honeymoon. Problems next show will arrive in all the couples. And it doesn't look good, y'all. So, as usual, who do I think will make it, who will not make it? This was a good episode. I mean, it really was. Otherwise, I wouldn't have so many pages to read off to you and moments to reveal. But let's start with Karen and Miles. Karen is just super reserved. And I think if she would let her guard down and really realize that he is not like her past relationships, they may have a chance. However, Miles, you spooked the heck out of Karen by saying that she may be number 11. So you got to prove yourself. So I'm going to put you in the maybe column. Let's go to Olivia and Brett. These two are adorable together, and they complement each other so well. And I would love to see this couple make it. But like Henry, I do feel that Brett is there for all the wrong reasons. I've got to put you now in the maybe column. Armani and Woody. You lost your ring. It was totally great how Armani handled that. And I believe that she is trying very carefully to let you in her life, Woody. And that's wonderful. And Woody, you've been nothing but patient and understanding with Armani. So you guys are still my golden couple. I still see you working out. Christiana and Henry. Good gravy. No way in Hades do I see this couple working. I hope you prove me wrong, but I just don't see this one working. Amelia and Bennett. Adorable. And, you did avoid Bennett's question. However, that chemistry is still there, and I think down the road this is an issue you two will have to discuss, Amelia. You won't be able just to be like, hey, I'm focusing on this game. Forget the question. You're going to have to answer it. And with that is your recap of Married at First Sight, the U.S. edition. Tomorrow night is the Australian edition. I should be with you much earlier so I can get my workout in. This should be an only one night issue, thank God. So that is your Married at First Sight recap.